Today marks the beginning of a bountiful woodworking adventure. Over the past weeks, beautiful brawny Sipo doors have taken shape into the workshop, their sturdy silhouette a sight to behold. The journey began while another project was still in progress, its end not yet in sight. One rainy day, a delivery truck arrived, its wheels whispering through puddles, bringing a splendid stack of Sipo wood right to the front of the shop. Although the weather wasn't ideal for cutting wood, enthusiasm sparked a desire to dive right in, like a swimmer plunging into cool waters. This particular wood is known for its resistance, even in damp conditions, standing strong against nature's whims. However, the blade on the saw was completely dull, far from its former finesse. It became clear that a trip to the sharpener was essential. With the board measuring 95 millimeters thick, cutting in one pass proved impossible, like trying to fell a mighty oak with a butter knife. Instead of flipping it over for another round with the track saw, the decision was made to finish the cut by hand using a Japanese pull saw. The excitement of the task fueled the urge to keep going, hands steady and determined. Next, the board was brought inside to rip it on the floor, a makeshift stage for this wooden performance. This time, turning it upside down facilitated a clean finish on the cut, smooth as silk. The thought of ripping a lengthy 100 meters of wood by hand wasn't appealing. It loomed like a mountain to climb. Marking, cutting, and repeating this process continued until the two half boards were fully ripped. As the weather brightened, casting golden rays through the windows, it was time to head outdoors again to rip the second board, finding it much easier to work at waist height. In these moments, anticipation grew for the arrival of the large saw, which would have transformed hours of arduous work into mere minutes of effortless cutting. With all pieces prepared, the focus shifted to the milling process. A slight frustration arose. Why was it so difficult to push the wood through? The table was sticky and a bit rusty, making the task unnecessarily challenging, like trudging through thick mud. With much milling still ahead, cleaning was a necessity. A rust removal product was applied using a sponge, followed by some WD-40 and a gentle sanding. There was no need for abrasives. A 4,000 grit polishing disc sufficed. Careful attention to detail paid off as the grime was wiped away with a kitchen roll, revealing a much improved surface. To finish, a touch of paste wax transformed the top into something that looked brand new, and it felt delightfully slippery. Testing the table revealed a significant improvement, about 10 million% better. The wide pieces, however, would pose a challenge for jointing due to their weight. To address this, everything was cut to rough length before switching to the jointer. Working with such dense, beefy wood was a true pleasure. Each moment spent on this solid material brought a satisfying sense of purpose. Once squared, it was time to enter planer mode, where the wood's beauty began to emerge. The hard texture and rich reddish colour captivated the senses, even though it remained completely odourless. While pine and oak often release their scents during cutting, this oily wood surprised with its neutrality. Now, all the pieces rested on sawhorses, perfectly squared. Yet, those sawhorses were looking quite worn. New ones were needed, a project for another day. Next, the table saw awaited to square the ends of the long pieces, inching them closer to their final length. every corresponding piece was clamped to ensure precise matching. Now came my favourite part of this project, the joinery. Given the thickness of these doors, the work resembled timber framing more than fine furniture making. This allowed for the creation of sizable mortises, tenons and pegs, each joint a testament to strength and skill. Using a square and marking knife, the correct dimensions were established, and a mortise was marked for roughly a third of the thickness of the stiles. Again, the corresponding stiles were clamped together to ensure perfect alignment of the mortises. Accuracy was paramount. Markings had to be absolutely spotless, since cuts could never exceed the precision of the marks. A full-width tenon was marked from the inside of the stile, transitioning to a split tenon on the outer side. This was crucial because a single tenon of that width would expand and contract excessively, risking gaps at the edges over time, something to avoid, especially for exterior doors exposed to nature's whims. Once prepared, the chisel bit was placed in the machine, meticulously aligned parallel to the fence. The cutting began and progressed smoothly, likely thanks to the well-sharpened bit. The inside of the mortise for the full-width tenon was tackled first, followed by turning the stile to cut mortises for the split tenon. The outcome was impressive, with chisel marks visible on the sides of the mortise, and while the interior appeared rough, it would remain unseen, a hidden testament to the process. The bottom of the mortise, however, needed attention. It was far from flat. This was the nature of a hollow chisel mortiser, but achieving a perfect joint required a smooth surface. The best solution involved a small flush trim plunge ball bearing router bit. This router bit would follow the mortise walls, crafting a perfectly flat bottom while sending dust flying towards the phone, creating a miniature sandstorm. Upon completion, the mortise looked beautiful, a wooden work of art. Next, a mark for the centre of each mortise was made to cut the square hole for the square peg draw bore. To prevent tear out while drilling, small pieces of wood were inserted into the mortise. While Sipo is excellent for many applications, it can tear easily, its fibres separating like strands of silk. The hole was then cut to match the mortise, with only one small square hole to create. Achieving a clean finish was straightforward. With that, the stiles were complete, and attention turned to the rails. Marking the giant tenons with a marking gauge was the next step, followed by a small cut to define the tenon length. A bandsaw was then utilised to remove most of the waste. The screeching sound of the saw filled the air, but all tenons for the rails were roughly cut. An innovative idea surfaced. Using a surfacing bit for the CNC would be the best method for cleaning up the tenons. Adjusting the tool was simple, and it promised a perfect surface, smooth as polished stone. As the day drew to a close, the Sipo doors, still in pieces but taking shape, held the promise of tomorrow's work. Each cut, each joint, each decision had brought them closer to completion. Next, nimble fingers wielded calipers to mark the split tenon's silhouette. These were sliced roughly right with the bandsaw, where pinpoint precision wasn't paramount. A slight gap, a couple of millimeters wide, was acceptable. Wedging would work wonders, resolving any minor misalignments. A subtle slope at the bottom shoulder ensured a flawless fit, like a key sliding into its lock. Though this may only tantalize true timber enthusiasts, there's immense satisfaction in seeing a well-crafted, assembly, knowing the internal structure stands strong and secure. The next task tackled was marking the peg hole in the tenon using a square chisel, its edge sharp as a winter's morning. To obtain the traditional drawbore strength, the peg was offset ever so slightly before cutting it with the square mortiser. This offset needed to remain minimal. Sipo, stubborn and strong, doesn't tolerate much deviation. Then it was back to the table saw, its teeth ready to tear into the timber, to cut the pegs from an offcut of the rails. An unexpected snap sent sawdust flying, prompting a quick quest to the bench sander to add a gentle chamfer to the pegs, ensuring an easy entry into their new homes. Despite its diminutive size, this tool generated a dust devil, a bit bewildering. Finally, the peg was tested for fit, tight as a drum, but feeling just right. Next came the installation of mullions, featuring fancy, finessed dovetail joinery, a less common choice for such thick doors, which typically favour tenon and mortise marriages. However, the allure of dovetails for this project was irresistible. Careful, calculated cuts ensured straight, true lines. Although dust collection wasn't ideal, the chips churned out by the dovetail bit were quite captivating, resulting in a lovely laced notch. Dovetailing the mullions themselves proved more daunting. Vertical holding wasn't viable as it had been for the rails. Constructing a custom cradle became crucial. An offcut of plywood was broken down with the table saw into triangles and trapezoids. These pieces were then pieced together with glue and screws, creating a cozy cocoon for the wood. Once satisfied that the jig would hold firm, a sacrificial fence was added to complete the setup for a quick cut. All this effort expended for a mere moment of milling magic. At last, all pieces were primed and ready. This milestone in the making was particularly rewarding. Laying out the parts on the assembly table revealed the fruits of a full day's labour. Gratification washed over, each piece a testament to time and toil invested. With everything in its place, it was time to begin the glue-up, a symphony of sticking and setting. There were just 6 joints to join, and their simplicity offered a stress-free experience. A thick layer of waterproof glue was carefully coated, crucial for combating the elements in exterior projects. The tenons slid smoothly into their mortise mates, and clamps clasped everything close while pegs were pressed into position. Glue was brushed onto the pegs before gently guiding them home with a mallet's measured taps. Gradually, they glided into place, tightening the connection between rails and stiles. The following day brought the chance to return to the shop, where cutting the pegs with a flush trim saw revealed the door's true form. Gluing the mullions was straightforward. Adhesive was applied amply, and the mullion was hammered home. They cooperated nicely, adding the final flourishes to a project that had come to life beautifully. Next comes the preparation of wedges for securing the outer edges of all the tenons. A couple of millimeters remain on each side, not adding structural strength, but ensuring a firm press of the tenon into the mortise. As the wood waxes and wanes with the seasons, this thoughtful design promises decades of perfect joints before any signs of wear appear. While the glue dries and sets, the next task involves milling and cutting wood for 2 additional doors. The sight of meticulously milled timber on the workbench brings a sense of satisfaction, each piece a testament to the effort invested. Then it's time to trim the excess tenon that protrudes from its mortise. The flush trim saw glides through the material like a hot knife through butter, and once finished, the side of the door receives a gentle sanding to erase any scratch marks. A moment is taken to admire the quality of focus in this process. Now attention shifts to the moldings. A large number of planks measuring 3 centimeters by 8 centimeters are cut, miraculously sourced from the offcuts of the larger boards initially used for the rails and stiles. These planks are essential for crafting the intricate moldings that will add the finishing touches to our wooden wonders. The wood for the casing is also cut, adding another layer to the project's complexity, like a puzzle slowly taking shape. 2 hours of milling pass in a blur of buzzing blades, but the effort is worth its weight in sawdust. Once everything is flat, square, and of the correct width, a sacrificial 45 degrees fence is prepared for cutting miters on all 32 moulding pieces. A stop block ensures that each cut is perfectly repeated, achieving consistency and precision worthy of a master craftsman. The process continues until all the short pieces are complete. The long ones follow the same method, each cut a step closer to the final vision, like brush strokes on a canvas. To simplify assembly and maintain perfect alignment during the glue-up, mortises are milled into each piece using the domino joiner. While a special frame would make this task easier, the sheer number of frames calls for a straightforward approach, a testament to efficiency in the face of quantity. Setting up the moulding bit in the shaper, the wood is passed through, transforming it into the desired form. The decision to create mortises before shaping proves wise, as it prevents instability during the process, like building a strong foundation before erecting walls. With all the pieces displayed on the assembly table, a sense of accomplishment washes over like a warm summer breeze. Just a glue-up remains, marking the final step for the frames, the last hurdle in this woodworking marathon. All available clamps are enlisted for this task, an army of metal soldiers holding the wood in place. It's a familiar feeling, never enough clamps for the job, yet such projects are not everyday occurrences, making the challenge all the more sweet. And there they stand, all the frames, a sight that invites reflection. A moment is taken to pause and appreciate the tangible results of a day's work. It's gratifying to witness the fruits of labor, each frame a story of skill, patience, and dedication. For now, they need to dry, resting before their final transformation into doors that will stand the test of time. Returning to the rustic retreat, a light lashing of the frames with sandpaper removes any bothersome blemishes. This part of the process isn't particularly pleasing, and by the end, fingers feel the fatigue of the feverish friction. Next, the shaper sings its song again to cut a rabbit round each frame, allowing them to sink slightly into the door's embrace. With the right tool at hand, this task turns from taxing to trivial, and once the setup is complete, all frames are processed in mere moments. The doors begin to take shape, transforming from timber to treasures. The focus shifts to the inner panels, their potential pulsing with promise. Despite the dreary, drizzling day, a dash outside yields small panels cut from a long, luxurious Sipo board. Marking, milling, and multiplying the process leads to a satisfactory stack of rough cuts. After proper planing and prepping, it's time to set up the shaper's origin. The panel is pinned in place, the design downloaded into the diligent device, the area scanned with scrutiny, and the design delicately dropped onto the grid with precise bit depth adjustments. The routing begins, a repetitive rhythm that consumes an entire afternoon, yet the results are ravishing. Each panel, once sculpted by the shaper's steady hand, requires a rabbet cut with a spindle moulder, adding a pleasing, profound depth to the finished piece. The most time-consuming task involves 15 meticulous minutes of hand sanding and fine-tuning details with a chisel's caress. Router marks and burn blemishes demand diligent attention, but the effort evolves into a clean, crisp surface. Each larger panel receives a small, serene rosette at the corners, a simple yet sophisticated addition. The right bit makes this task quick, transforming wood into wonder as thin layers lift away to form the final floral shape. With the panels primed and polished, the frames and panels come together in a harmonious whole. Given the generous girth of the panels and the wood's wondrous characteristics, concerns about wood movement are minimal. Yet, out of habit and hope for longevity, screws are fastened in the center of each panel, ensuring steadfast stability. And there it stands. The sculpted panels look simply stunning. The theme of local coat of arms leaps to life, with the unicorn representing the city since medieval times, while the two leopards symbolize Normandy's noble heritage dating back nearly a millennium. Once all panels are perfected, it's time to utilize the big, brawny shaper. This formidable machine, though full of quirks and quibbles, stands ready to rumble. After a brief hiatus for healing and repairs, it's back in action with vigor. The sheer weight of this 1 metric ton marvel provides stalwart stability, while its 15 horsepower engine promises to tackle any task with tenacity. Using a mini blade, the groove for the silicone joint is cut with careful precision, ensuring a perfect protective fit. Once this cut is completed, attention returns to the workbench to route a bead around the door's borders. The initial attempts go smoothly, but an unfortunate trip over a wayward wire ruins one side. Disappointment follows as the notch proves too large to fix with finesse. A chisel is brought in to remove the entire bead, creating a clean canvas for correction. A small slice of wood is glued and clamped to the stile. And once the glue dries, a flush trim saw and block plane refine the repair to pristine perfection. With the doors cleaned and corrected, a thin rabbet is marked around the edges to create a small air chamber between the two silicone joints. The tracksaw rail is placed precisely, clamped to the door to prevent movement during the decisive cut. The rabbet is executed with a sharpened blade, yielding a clean, crisp line. The beads are stopped just shy of the corner, avoiding further damage during routing. A fishtail chisel, perfect for dovetails, is used to tidy up the corner with tender care, followed by sandpaper for finishing finesse. The result isn't perfect, but it carries a handmade charm, a testament to craftsmanship. Next, the outer panels are glued in place with gentle pressure. As they will be painted, the risk of movement is negligible. A small hole at the bottom of each panel is crucial for moisture evacuation, while a groove around the chamber collects water and directs it to these helpful holes. Brad nails secure the panel in place while the glue dries, holding history in the making. The process continues with the remaining panels, just a rinse and repeat of the same steps, each one bringing us closer to completion. For the exterior of the doors, ornamental details are crafted for the rails with care. While the specific term for these ornaments escapes memory, their aesthetic balance enhances the door's overall appearance. A bead at the bottom helps deflect water, preventing marks on the panels and protecting our masterpiece. The same method of gluing and nailing applies to these ornaments, with small pieces cut at 45-degree angles for a polished, professional finish. This attention to detail pays off, resulting in a seamless, sophisticated look. The same process is repeated for the top and bottom, ensuring precision in alignment. When working with intersecting 45-degree angles, a metal cylinder is pressed into the joints to close any gaps, enhancing durability and defying time. Next, linseed oil putty is used to fill the small holes left by brad nails, erasing evidence of our mechanical aids. In a somewhat unconventional move, a thin line of linseed oil putty is applied around every intersection of the door. While the beautiful wood would typically shine on its own, the cold, capricious rainforest climate necessitates protection. With rain falling over 200 days a year, preserving this work is paramount, and ensuring the door is waterproof is a priority above all. Once the preparation is complete, a mixture of white linseed oil paint and pure boiled linseed oil is created with care. The first coat requires a high oil content, minimizing pigments to allow the wood to breathe and bond. This initial application resembles a cerous finish, yet it serves its purpose with silent strength. With each stroke, the door begins to take on a faint, fairy tale white hue. Working with this paint proves pleasurable. It's natural, nearly VOC-free, and carries a pleasant, pervasive scent. This part of the project, while not time-consuming in itself, spans several weeks, as drying time between coats is necessary. The third and fourth coats mirror the first two, adding layers of protection and beauty, building a barrier against time and elements. Finally, a couple of coats of linseed oil mixed with hard wax are applied, revealing the wood's stunning character in all its glory. Each application feels like a celebration for a woodworking enthusiast, a dance of preservation and presentation. The sculpted panels require considerable time and patience, yet watching them come together is rewarding beyond measure. Once all the coats have dried, a gentle buffing with beeswax brings out a lovely, lasting shine. Next, insulation is inserted into the chamber, lightening the door by at least 10 kilograms compared to a solid 90mm door, while enhancing insulation efficiency, form, and function in perfect harmony. Reinstalling the finished panels involves visible screws capped with brass. Mixed feelings arise about the visible hardware, but time will tell the tale of the best choice. For the other doors, brad nails are used, as they won't be simultaneously visible from the inside, a secret shared between craftsman and creation. Finally, it's time for glass installation. Beautiful triple glazing windows are chosen, while uncertain about their efficiency compared to double glazing. The slight price increase is justifiable for the promise of performance. Wooden wedges are placed where the glass will rest, secured with sticky silicone that promises durability through the decades. Plastic wedges lock the glass in place as the frames are reattached with care. It appears that the project is nearing its noble conclusion. Though installation awaits a wall, standing by the current setup stirs excitement about the final fantastic product. A door not just built, but born from passion, persistence, and the poetry of woodworking.